Hello. Under the slogan Young and Fun Philosophy, this is SageSync, which brings the thoughts of philosophers into today's life and delivers them as a story of empathy. Welcome. Today, we're starting something really interesting, I think. We're diving into a question that, well, it really gets to the core of how we see ourselves, our lives, our choices.
It definitely does. Over the next few chats, we'll be looking at some major thinkers, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Gracián, and exploring what they had to say about some pretty big life topics.
Absolutely. And the question kicking us off today is a big one. The freedom you have now, is it real?
Hmm. It's something we often just assume, right, that we're free agents. But today we're asking, could we be mistaken? Is the freedom we feel actually, real freedom? We'll be looking at some challenging ideas.
Definitely challenging. And we're jumping right in with Arthur Schopenhauer. Now, well, he wasn't exactly optimistic about free will, was he?
No, not at all. He really pushed back against that common feeling we have, that sense that we're consciously, autonomously in charge of our thoughts and actions.
He called it a huge illusion, I believe.
That's the phrase. He argued that this belief we hold so dear that we freely choose is fundamentally flawed, a mirage, almost.
Okay, so if our feeling of making choices is just an illusion, what did Schopenhauer think is running the show? What's actually driving us?
Well, for Schopenhauer, it all comes down to something he called the will. Not will like willpower exactly. Think of it more like fundamental instinctual drives, deep desires, the urge to survive, to reproduce, hunger, thirst, that kind of thing.
Primal forces, almost.
Exactly. He believed these unconscious drives, along with our, basic character, our physical state, maybe even genetics, our upbringing, these are what actually determine our decisions. Our conscious mind. Often it just comes up with the reasons after the fact, justifies what the will already decided.
So we think we're choosing the pasta,
Yeah.
but really some deep biological urge or ingrained habit made the choice. And our brain is just, pasta sounds good.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah. He saw our conscious self as more of a servant to this deeper will, not its master. The feeling of choice is real, but the source of the choice isn't our conscious deliberation, according to him.
Wow. It really turns things on their head. It implies a real conflict between how we feel free and how Schopenhauer believes we are driven.
Precisely. And this conflict led him to that stark conclusion. Man is not free. He is only under the illusion of being free.
It makes sense then, hearing his famous quote, "Freedom is not the freedom to will. We only have the freedom to will what we will." That's tricky.
It is a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? But what he means is you can't choose what you fundamentally desire or will. Your desires themselves are given, determined. You might feel free to act on a desire, but the desire itself wasn't freely chosen. It arose from this deeper will.
So even wanting something intensely, that feeling of, I really want this, isn't necessarily a product of free choice in his view.
Not the origin of it, no. That feeling itself is part of the mechanism, determined by forces outside your conscious control. It's unsettling, for sure. It challenges our whole sense of self.
Definitely unsettling. So, faced with this rather bleak picture, did Schopenhauer see any way out? Any possibility for us to gain even a little bit of freedom from this relentless will?
Well, out might be too strong a word. But he did suggest a path toward less enslavement, let's say. It involves self-understanding, by becoming really aware of our own nature, our patterns, the desires that pull us this way and that. By understanding this will within us, we can try to detach a bit, to observe the desire without automatically acting on it.
Ah, so it's about awareness and maybe resisting the immediate impulse.
Yes, that effort, that struggle for self-awareness and detachment from the constant flow of desires, that was, for Schopenhauer, the only way humans could get closer to freedom. Not total freedom, perhaps, but closer.
Closer. Right. A constant vigilance, it sounds like. Okay, quite a perspective to start with. Now, let's shift gears, because Friedrich Nietzsche comes at this from a completely different, maybe more empowering angle.
Oh, definitely. Nietzsche didn't dismiss freedom, but he thought we often misunderstand what it really means. He saw it as something much more active, more demanding.
You felt the word freedom gets thrown around too easily.
Yeah, he thought the common ideas like freedom being just, no one stopping you or having lots of options were kind of, well, shallow, not the real deal.
Okay, so if it's not just about lack of interference or having choices, what was true freedom for Nietzsche? What's the core idea?
His key question sort of sums it up. According to whose law do you live?
Ah, okay. So it's about the source of the rules you follow.
Exactly. For Nietzsche, real freedom wasn't about escaping rules altogether. It was about having the courage, the strength to break away from conventional morality, from society's expectations, from laws imposed by others, and then, crucially, to create your own laws, your own values to live by.
So freedom isn't just being let go. It's about actively creating your own framework. Liberation through creation, maybe.
Precisely. It's self-creation, self-legislation. This connects directly to his idea of the Übermensch.
The Overman or Superman.
Right.
How does that fit in?
The Übermensch is basically Nietzsche's ideal of someone who has achieved this kind of freedom. They don't just passively accept the values they inherit from society or religion. No, they question everything. They take full responsibility for their life, for creating meaning, and they forge their own standards based on their own assessment, their own will to power.
So the Übermensch embodies this freedom by being self-governing.
Yes. As Nietzsche said, the free man is he who is governed by himself. It's about defining your own path.
That sounds incredibly difficult, like a constant internal and external battle.
It is. Nietzsche acknowledged that. This freedom arises from what he called the will to power, which isn't just about dominating others, but more fundamentally about the drive to grow, overcome obstacles, assert your own perspective, and shape your own life. And living by your own rules, even when it's hard, when there's pain, anxiety, temptation. That's the mark of this freedom.
And he suspected most people didn't actually want this kind of demanding freedom.
He was quite blunt about it. He famously stated, "The majority do not want freedom. They merely mistake comfort for freedom." He saw most people as preferring the security of established norms, even if it meant sacrificing this deeper, more challenging self-creation. The responsibility was too much, maybe too frightening.
So Nietzsche really throws down the gauntlet. He asks us, is the freedom you value just picking options within someone else's system? Or is it the harder path of forging your own system entirely?
It's a profound challenge. Definitely makes you question your own motivations and values.
Okay, so we've had Schopenhauer's illusion and Nietzsche's self-creation. Now let's bring in Balthasar Gracián. His perspective seems maybe more grounded, more practical.
Yes, Gracián takes a very different approach. He's less concerned with the deep metaphysics of free will and more focused on how we navigate life wisely, how we exercise freedom in the real world.
Like freedom as a skill to be developed.
Exactly like a skill or a capacity. His core advice is pretty straightforward. He who cannot govern himself cannot be free. For Gracián, freedom isn't primarily about external circumstances, it's about internal self-mastery.
Self-mastery, meaning what exactly? Like keeping your cool?
Keeping your cool is part of it, yeah. It's the ability to regulate your emotions, choose your words carefully, control your actions, manage your desires, resist impulses. He believed that only someone with this kind of self-control is truly free, no matter what choices they seem to have on the outside.
So it's less about the number of choices and more about your ability to handle yourself within those choices.
Precisely. Gracián was realistic. He knew perfect freedom, infinite options. That's not how society works. What matters is wise self-control. That's what allows you to stay in charge of your own life, even amidst limitations and pressures.
He called it the power to maintain one's center, didn't he? I like that image.
It's a great image, yeah. It suggests stability, resilience, not being blown around by every external influence or internal whim. It's about having an anchor within yourself.
And he explicitly contrasts this with controlling others.
Yes. The strong man is not the one who controls others, but the one who controls himself. That idea resonates so much today, with leadership, self-help, emotional intelligence.
It really does. You can imagine someone with, say, immense wealth and power, but if they're completely ruled by their temper or addictions, Gracián would say they aren't truly free.
Exactly. If you're easily swayed by what others think or constantly reacting to fleeting emotions or chasing every pleasure impulsively, are you really directing your own life? Gracián would argue no.
So his crucial insight boils down to,
not the breadth of choice, but the power to handle choice determines freedom. It's about the quality of your inner governance, not just the quantity of external options.
it provides a really practical lens. Okay, so 3 quite distinct viewpoints on freedom.
Very distinct. We have Schopenhauer saying, essentially, freedom is mostly an illusion. We're driven by desire.
Then Nietzsche demanding we break free from existing values and courageously create our own law, our own meaning.
And Gracián grounding us, saying true freedom lies in the internal capacity for self-control, for self-mastery within whatever situation we find ourselves.
Putting them together, it suggests freedom isn't Well, it isn't free in the easy sense. It's not just doing whatever you feel like.
Not at all. It seems true freedom might involve the difficult work of understanding and managing desire, as Schopenhauer hinted, or the demanding courage Nietzsche spoke of to define yourself against the grain, or the wisdom Gracián emphasized to stay centered and self-possessed.
Which really makes you pause and reflect, doesn't it? The freedom we think we have right now. How does it stack up against these ideas? Is it genuine or just the feeling of freedom?
And if you feel you are making your own choices, have you really looked, as Nietzsche might ask, at where those choices and values truly come from? Are they yours or inherited?
Leading to that final, perhaps most pointed question, is the freedom you enjoy something you've actively created and mastered? Or is it more like a permission slip to operate within boundaries set by someone else? Lots to chew on there.
Definitely a lifelong inquiry, perhaps.
Today's Sage Sync ends here. I will come back next time with another life wisdom. Thank you.